I'm your host, Madeline, and welcome to the Courageous Podcast, where you will hear inspirational stories of everyday people who will share how they found strength, hope, and faith in the midst of adversity. Let's get ready to be inspired. Hello. Welcome to the Courageous Podcast today. I so appreciate you for joining us today. Hey, today I have a special guest. Her name is Bewindi Bobb, and she's from Memphis, Tennessee, but she's originally from St. Lucia. So I'm excited to hear all about that. She is a licensed clinical social worker and the CEO and founder of Against All Odds Professional Counseling Services. Bewindi provides therapy as well as Christ-centered counseling to professionals and young adults who are struggling with emotional conflicts and works with them to help develop a better perspective so that they can walk in freedom. Bewindi is the creator and host of Empowered to Empower You podcast, which focuses on all things Jesus, mental health, and wellness. And each episode is packed with information, inspiration, and insight. Bewindi is also a published author of the Empowerment for You, Encouragement for Your Spiritual and Emotional Wellness. And her newest release is Empowerment for You Reflection Workbook. Bewindi, thank you, and welcome to the Courageous Podcast today.
My pleasure, Madeline. It's such an honor to be here with you.
Well, you and I met through a connection, a dear friend, Stephanie Kelleher, who was on the podcast. And she's like, hey, I got this girl. She's awesome. You're going to love her. And oh my God, she was right. Our first conversation was amazing, even though it was brief, but I feel like we unpacked a lot of little different things. And so you had said that when you thought about what was one of the hardest things that you overcame, which I had said, I'm sure there's many, but you said the first one that came to mind was a moment in your life, which was about rejection. And as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my God, I know what she's talking about. And so before we get into that, I wanted you to just tell me a little bit about your upbringing and where you came from.
Thank you for asking that. So I was born and raised in St. Lucia in the Eastern Caribbean. I haven't been there since I left. So my journey was St. Lucia. I left when I was probably a teenager and we moved to the Virgin Islands. And I went to school in St. Thomas on the St. Thomas Island. So just imagine your mode of transportation is a huge boat from St. Thomas to home in St. John, and the excitement of the water from the beach splashing on you. I absolutely miss those days. And then we moved from there to Columbus, Ohio in '98. Talk about culture shock. Um,
Definitely.
yes, I went to college in Ohio. I moved by myself to St. Louis, Missouri for graduate school. And honestly, the Lord led me to Memphis, Tennessee in 2006.
Amazing. And what prompted your family to want to move to the States, to go to Ohio?
St. Lucia, as beautiful as it is normally identified as, oh my gosh, it's paradise, but it's also a third country. And so when we are most people in the international or grew up internationally see America as a land of opportunity. And so my father wanted for us to have more opportunities to thrive. And so that was the motivation behind us being in the United States of America.
Everybody's looking for the American dream.
Yeah.
And what I love is when people come from other countries and they really, really take advantage of the resources and the things that we can provide here in the States. And I'll just, call myself out. I believe that there are people that have done that more so than even myself when I think about growing up here, being born here and having all of the resources that throughout life I haven't really taken advantage of it the way that I could have or should have. And so I truly admire when people come here and just do amazing things with their lives and are, giving back and contributing like you are. And so why did you decide to go into social work?
Oh man, let's just say that I had a Jonah experience.
Hmm.
I knew that as a child, I knew that, well, let's just say I had my own bout of low self-esteem and depression and suicidal thoughts as a
Mm.
child. But I knew that there was something in my life, on my life. I did not have the language to know that it was the anointing, that it was something unique about me, that I kind of had the wisdom to give advice. I wanted to be the voice of other people,
Mm.
because there were times where I felt like I didn't have the voice to speak. And so as I grew up, as I grew older, even, high school, because by the time I was in the Virgin Islands, I had another high school, and then going into college, people felt safe to talk to me. But even in college, I still resist. There was a lot of resistance. And so I started majoring just to run away from the idea of social work or counseling. I didn't understand that the calling behind that. I started majoring in computer information systems. Talk about a far-fetched runaway. And the registrar was like, "Baby, you're gonna need to change your major because you're not doing so well."
No offense.
Yes, no, right. So I still trying to run away. I started majoring in rehabilitation services, which dealt with persons with disabilities. It wasn't so much of a bad idea, but that was still my wanting to do something else other than that. Of course, graduate school, you really have to know what do you want to be in life and what's your focus. And so by graduate school, I decided, the major of social work. And I'm really, really thankful. So now I understand more that it's not just a profession, but it's a profession, right?
Yes.
It's a calling to do what I'm able to do.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. I love that
Mm.
you shared that you also struggled with a lot of the very things that you are now helping
Yes,
young people and adults with. And so it's easier probably to speak to that, to say, yeah, I understand because I was there and I went through that. And
absolutely.
so obviously you go on this journey of wanting to help people in this profession, create change, and you start working for an organization with some very, very high hopes. So tell me about that encounter.
Absolutely. So this wasn't the first job I had when I moved here. I had a few experiences in Memphis, but in March of 2017, March 20th, 2017 to be exact, I was offered an opportunity to be a director of adult services at a mental health case management agency. I will not mention the name.
Of course.
And this was the first time to be a leader. I know that I'm a leader. I know I've always known that there was leadership, in me. And so this was an opportunity. I saw it as a gift to be able to come and, you know, learn the culture, but also lead the culture, right? And foster a wonderful working relationship. Over time, when I first came, I noticed there was a very negative, oppressive environment.
Hmm.
I noticed that the staff literally walked like the walking dead. They were very disgruntled and they were sad and kind of wanting to ask, what happened to y'all? What is going on in this agency? And I, full of hope and encouragement, I love to encourage people. That is my spiritual gift, optimism. I started doing things to build morale, and um, I started doing things to encourage the staff, even recognizing their birthdays and providing clinical consultation. And the staff would tell me, they used to call me boss lady. Boss lady, we never got anything like this. We've never experienced. You're so positive. Even they noticed that there was something different about
Yes.
me and the way that I lead, the way that I led from the beginning.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. So they finally got someone that understood, that cared, that had empathy and said, I need to go a little bit deeper. And I
Yes.
can relate to that because of my HR profession. And I've been in HR for, so many years.
Mhm.
And I've walked into those very oppressed places and I've seen people kind of broken and I've been a part of being able to create change. And, sometimes you do go in there very hopeful and excited. You have this new job, a new opportunity, and sometimes it doesn't go the way that we want. You know what I mean? There are places where it's very hard to change those things, but we need to continue to be who God created us to be and continue to be positive and be the change. And so do you feel that when you went in there, did you have the support that you needed? Because a lot of times you start a new job and they paint it like it's this great, perfect place. And then you get in there and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Did they support you?
Not entirely. So not specifically from upper leadership. I started seeing that upper leadership was threatened by my presence because it was something different that they had never seen. However, as I started to be developed, there's such a powerful thing with rebuilding relationship. And so as I started to develop relationship and rapport with the staff on my team, there were some that came around eventually to say, what do you need, boss lady? How can we help you, type of thing. But it was a fight. It was a struggle for sure.
And, being the director, all of these people are also hopeful, like, hey, we've got this new person. She's here. She's going to make changes. Hopefully, we will get,
Mhm.
something new, something different. But as you and I were talking, there's always going to be those haters out there that are not happy about the positive, cheery person that's coming in to create this change. I'm sure some people, because I've heard it in some of my clients' workplaces, well, who does she think she is? She just got here, Like,
Yes.
look at her all happy and everything. Like, you need to stop that. And so, what happened? On a particular day where your two supervisors kind of walked in
Yes.
and you were surprised at that visit into your office.
Absolutely. So this is almost a year into the agency, into my role. And March 2nd, 2018, I was in my office. I love the sounds of birds and waves, being an island girl, and so I had bird sounds playing from YouTube and music, and staff thought that there were literal birds in my office. Like, what's going on in your office, boss lady? And so for a moment, I was by myself, and two COOs came into the office, and it was a Friday. And essentially, they said, "We need to speak with you on Monday." And so I thought that was strange. Why not talk to me right now? Right. And so both of them sat down, and they essentially said, unfortunately, we have decided that your services are no longer needed. And the female COO is almost in tears. Her eyes are watering up as she's saying this because she knows that this is something very unjust that's happening. What I found out later on is that they had secretively came down and got the staff from my floor to bring them upstairs to meet with the CEO of the organization, to basically have the staff falsely accuse me or write a letter to report something about me that were instigated by one of the supervisors on my team. So the supervisor on my team was spreading lies about me, had said something that I said about the CEO that I had never said. And so
Hmm.
there was a lot happening in that moment. And so when the COOs are in front of me, um, I essentially repeated back what they said just to make sure. So are you saying to me that my services are no longer needed because you're saying that my philosophy of team morale and building the team does not align with your agency? I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. That was the reason for the termination. And of course, I don't know if you know, in Tennessee, it is an at will state for termination. So they don't really have to give you a reason, but that was
Right.
the reason on the documentation.
That is ridiculous.
Yes.
But I know, and you know, that this happens every single day, that people are being let go unjustly. And now it's funny because now in the workplace, people are so shocked about the great resignation, and you have millions of people leaving their jobs because they're sick and tired and fed up of
Yes.
being treated this way. And so, then you wonder why people have quit their jobs. It's like, wait a minute, I don't want to live like this. I want freedom. I want happiness. I want work life balance. But
Mhm.
there you are trying to do the very thing that they hire you to do. And what was so needed. And again, that wasn't what they really wanted. And so, how did you feel in that moment when you got that news? Because I could imagine that you were in shock.
I was in shock. I was in shock. I feel like the Lord prepared me for that. I can't really understand, but spiritually I believe the Lord prepared me for that. Um, in my devotion, there was something that I wrote down: stand still, stand firm, stand strong. I believe those
Mm,
are the three things that I wrote down in that morning of my devotion. I didn't understand why you were telling me why the Lord was telling me to stand still, stand firm, stand strong. But
Right.
so I still remember my disposition. I will never forget. I was head up, look, giving eye contact, firm. I was unshaken by that. I
Mm,
was shocked by it. And I essentially asked the question, how long do I have? And they told me today is your last day. So I had no preparation. I remember saying, I don't think that's fair. You gave such and such 30 days to leave, and
right.
you're telling me, a licensed clinical professional, that I need to leave today. I'm treated as if I have done something wrong here. And I said, the next thing I asked was, well, I need some boxes because I have a lot of things to pack.
Oh my goodness. I have to say, be Wendy, I have been on the other side of that, both sides. I've had to terminate people, unfortunately, and I've
Mhm.
also been terminated, and I know what that feels like. And because I know what that feels like, I have made it my mission in my work and with my clients to make sure that I terminate with grace.
Mm.
And so, whenever I'm letting or a part of a conversation where I need to let somebody go, I always treat them with gentleness and kindness. I do not allow any manager, anyone to disparage or point out every little thing that was done incorrectly and so forth. Like, the decision's been made. I want this person to walk away with dignity because I want them to go on. Because one job doesn't mean that that's the end. You know what I mean? And so, for you, what was it like as a professional? Was it hard to maintain your composure as a professional and as a Christian?
That's such a great question. I remember as the female COO leaves and the male COO stays, and he's, of course, supervising and making sure. And he says to me, well, Miss Bobb, we need to hurry it up because I don't want you to make a scene. And essentially, I said, Mr. So and so, let's just call him Mark. That's not his name. Mr. So and so, I came in with dignity and I'm going to walk out with dignity. And even leaving, by the time I'm packing and moving boxes, the staff who were secretively lured upstairs are now coming downstairs and they are in tears. And I was comforting them.
Mm,
I, the one who's being rejected, the one who's told you need to leave, that you're no longer needed, that the one who's discarded essentially is having to comfort the staff and say, we will make it, you will be all right. Um, and I kept my composure the entire time. And was it hard to keep my composure the entire time? I'll tell you what really anchored me. Honestly, my faith.
mm,
My faith. Now, did I cry after that? I know we'll get to that in a second.
yeah.
Absolutely, I did. Right? Thankfully, my friend who was the other director, she was happy. She was on maternity leave, and she happened to just be going home that day. And she allowed me to come over, and I definitely cried and put myself together. But while I was there, they never saw a tear.
Hmm.
They never saw a tear from me.
Girl, that's me. I can be broken, but I will not let you see that, especially if I know I've been treated unjustly.
Yes.
We have to maintain our composure, right? I mean, we have to. One thing that really stuck with me that you said was, when I asked you that question privately, you said, I know who I am in
Yeah.
Christ. And that just sealed it for me. I was like, okay, I
Hmm.
know exactly what she means and I understand it.
Hmm.
And I love that you said that. And so, Bewindi, what was your motivation to push through that? Because a situation like that, you and I know, and you being a professional, can literally break and shake somebody to the point where they can't go on. They don't want to look for another job. They feel rejected, like you said, discarded. What was your motivation to push through that?
I just knew then that my God will supply my needs. I just knew that He will take care of me. That even if whatever people cause to, this was meant to destroy my career. This was meant to embarrass me. But
Yes.
I knew that He has me. He has His daughter, And I was confident. I never once doubted, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be put out of my home. I just I just believe in being anchored by the Lord and by who He is. And to be honest, even after termination, less than a month later, God blessed me with a better job. I
Mm,
never missed a beat. Thank you, Jesus. I never, my bills were paid, my bills were still paid. I just trusted Him,
amen.
even through that moment.
That's amazing. Yeah, sometimes we think that, when they say that when one door closes, another one opens. And that is so true. And that's why we have to put our trust in God because He knew that, your job there was done, and He needed to open the door to something new and better. And so looking back, is there anything that you think you would have done differently?
You know, the one thing, no, I don't think I could have done anything differently. I do think I wish I had my day in court. But as I was preparing for this podcast, I just remember Jesus never had his day in court.
Mm,
He
yes,
was falsely accused all the time, and they never allowed him to defend himself. And really, he didn't have to defend himself. And
that's
so
right.
I wish that would have happened, but I never had a chance to even say, no, these accusations are false,
Right.
you know. So,
I remember when I asked you, about a courageous story,
mm,
this was the story that came to mind. But you had said that you had never ever shared this with anybody about how you felt about the rejection. Why did you decide to share the story with me?
wow. I know this is a God move because I wasn't released to share it earlier.
Mm,
And God had to make sure, I had to make sure that I was healed. I have forgiven the staff. I have forgiven the CEO. If I were to see them on the street, in fact, since then I have seen the CEO, greeted her. I would walk in love with them. And so it it did not need to come out prematurely. I would have been in my flesh, and I would have been talking negatively, and I still would have been responsible. And just the thing that I learned, one of the things that I learned, is just because we're hurt does not give us the right or the license to act vindictively, or to be
that's
negative, or to be disrespectful, right? And
that's right.
so there are so many people that are dealing with rejection. Rejection is rejection, whether it's termination, whether it's in a marriage, divorce,
Yes.
or family, or by just in relationships. Period. But there's
Yes.
a lot of people right now who are being told that you don't matter here
Yes.
in so many ways, and so many people are feeling like they're shrinking in their workplace. And I just believe that this is the Lord wanted me to share this story for a reason. Number one, for Him to get the glory. Number two, to share with people that you can rise above any circumstance. And just because it's a bad event, it doesn't have to define your life story.
That's that's right. I love that. That is literally the basis for courageous is to understand that we are not defined by the things that, we've been through, the mistakes that we've made, the things that have been done to us by other people. We still have to rise above and be better. And
Mhm.
so, if there's somebody listening, be Windy right now that was terminated or because you're a licensed professional, has been rejected by somebody that they love, feels discarded, feels like they're not important, like you said, what would you say to them right now to encourage them so that they can go on?
The first thing I would say is, I am so sorry that this happened to you. The second thing I would say is, take keep your head up in the moment, but when you get a chance, cry. Allow yourself to feel that. Allow yourself permission to grieve that, because it's still grief.
That's right.
Connect with your supports. If you are a believer, pray. Remember God's promises. Remember who your daddy is. If
That's
you're not
right.
a believer, connect with your support system. Take your time, pick yourself back up, and keep on trying again. And remember that you've also gone through hard things before. This is not the first hard thing that you have gone through, and you got through the last hard thing, and you will get through this hard thing. And I will also say, for some people, you may have to seek therapy,
Yes.
because this can be one of the most derailing events in your life. because it can strip you of your confidence, especially your when this happens, it attacks your character, your reputation, and your livelihood.
Yes.
Those are three things that can cause somebody to go off edge. So you may need to seek counseling to help you. It's okay to seek counseling to get through this.
That's right. That's why I'm so many times people go into the workplace and they do the things that they do. Nobody wakes up one day and says, "I want to go cause harm to people," but you need to seek help because sometimes there's a breaking point for everyone, and you can't do it by yourself. And you can't figure it out by going and paying, bad for bad. Like that is not what God calls us to do. And so I'm so glad that you said that. And so after going through that, what does life look like today for Bewindi Bobb?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Life today, Bewindi Bobb is thriving. She is serving purposefully. I am in full-time private practice. I have autonomy and freedom to incorporate Christ and the Word of God in therapy. I am no longer stifled by any particular organization. I get to serve the disenfranchised, and I get to
Yes.
serve the people that are hurting. And I am busy. I've written two books. I host a podcast. I There's some more things that I'm called to do, like more speaking events, and I'm actually in the process of hiring staff because I cannot serve the masses by myself.
Right.
So there's a lot happening in this season for sure.
I love it. But, it's a great example of, if you trust God
Yeah.
and you believe in his promises and his purpose for your life,
Mhm.
that he will make a way and that you will come out on the other side. And so sometimes we got to go through that stuff. You know what I mean? Because God
Mhm.
is like, I'm preparing you. I'm going to
Mhm.
shake you up. I'm going to break you a little bit, but then I'm going to reshape you and remold you,
Mhm.
and you're going to be even better. And look at where you are today. And that's really the message of our conversation today, right, B. Wendy?
Yes.
Is that no matter what we go through, that we can still overcome if we trust in the Father and we just continue to move forward. I posted something today that just to remind us that a lot of times we look back at the mistakes that we have made, but in the
Mhm.
word it says is that, listen, I remember your sin no more. And
Mhm.
so we continue to remember and hold on to it when God says it's in the past,
Right.
because of who I am, I can let it go and I can forgive you. And so I want to leave people with that and remember that. And so, Be Windy, of course, I got to support my entrepreneurial sister, my fellow podcaster. How can people connect with you?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So people can find me on Instagram at empowered the number two serve. I'm also on Facebook, Bewindi Bobb. People can also go on my website, www.bewindi.com, or they can go on www.aaopcs.net. The podcast is on several platforms. So if you just search for Bewindi Bobb, Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Google, there's a lot of ways to get in touch with me. You could even YouTube me. I'm sure there's a lot of things under my name as well. So there's several ways to get in touch with me. And both of the books are available through my website, bewindi.com, or Amazon as well.
And Be Windy, just do you do counseling via Zoom, or, do you provide services in that way if anybody wanted to reach out to you?
That's a really good question. I am 100% virtual,
Okay.
and I am licensed to serve in the state of Tennessee. But I do also provide, if I cannot serve the client, of course, I'm building my group practice to add on more clinicians. So if I cannot serve them, of course, we will make sure that they're taken care of. And I also provide coaching, but my schedule is so full, so not right
Mm.
now.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to connect. I want to pray blessings over you, over your practice, and that God will continue to use you to encourage young people, to serve those that have been rejected and discarded and disenfranchised. You are in the right place. And I'm so excited for you for your podcast. Listen, go listen to it. I've listened to it. it's the same. We're encouraging people, but Bewindi's bringing her own spin to it, bring a lot of great resources and information. And so I encourage you to go and listen to her podcast, check out her book. And if you want to get in touch with her through me, please reach out to me. I'd love for you to connect with her. Bewindi, thank you again for being on Courageous Podcast. And I look forward to us collaborating again in the
Yes,
future.
ma'am. Me too. And I absolutely love your podcast. And thank you for inviting me and being able to be here today.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. If you're watching, hey, thank you. Pray blessings over you. If you need anything, please message me, follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Let me know. If you have a courageous story, I'd love to have you on. If you need me to pray for you and encourage you, please message me. I'm here to serve. Thank you and take care.